Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Path of Me. I'm your host, Wendy Hutchinson. And my guest today is a very beautiful friend of mine. Her name's Vanessa Uybarreta. She is a Marconics Level 4 energy practitioner. She's a myofascial release practitioner. She's a massage therapist, intuitive mentor, and a movement and spiritual teacher. So welcome, Vanessa. Thank you for being
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is always fun, and I love having these conversations. So,
Oh, I'm so excited you're here. Also, Vanessa was on an earlier show. It was the Path of Me show number 19. If you want to go back and check that out after you view our interview today. And what we really wanted to do today was just kind of have a conversation about where we are in our spiritual journey, because so much has been shifting and changing. And we've both been going through a lot of different types of things and experiences. So I'm just going to turn it over to you, Vanessa, and ask you, what have you been noticing recently in your journey? What's been happening for you?
well, I think a lot of it comes down to just, shedding aspects of self that no longer serve the present moment. And that's what we're all doing, and what we're all moving in a forward direction. We're evolving. So that's a constant. That's never not happening. And so there's always this cycle of, sometimes there are these moments where, well, I thought I dealt with that, or I thought, I wasn't going to be dealing with this situation again, or a piece of this. And sometimes it just comes up really strongly, and you have to kind of ride through it. And on the other side, there's this beautiful clarity and deeper understanding, and, more expansiveness, and all the beautiful things that everyone desires. But going through the process is not always so fun, but there are definitely ways to make it easier and more in the flow of the natural flow of, who each of us are. And I think that's really why we're discussing this.
Yeah, I've noticed a couple of things with the people around me. One, they're clinging to old belief systems around who they are. Two, they're resisting change. They continue to make the same decisions in response to the same situations, and they are so stuck in a loop and so frustrated. And the energy of that is creating more of the same, that they can't seem to find their way out. So it feels like, we are shifting and we are expanding. And in order to do that, we have to be willing to let go of the things that don't serve us, right?
Yeah, and I think, it's important to remember that we're asking for the expansion, whether we realize it fully consciously or not. So we're asking for more aligned, flow, more joy, whatever it is, more abundance, more inner knowing of who we are and why we're here. And then when we get, guided that way, it doesn't always look like we think it's going to look, because it's still the process of clearing or healing or releasing, whatever you want to call it. It's still that journey that we have to navigate. And it's good to remember that we're asking for the transformation.
On a soul level, we're asking for that.
Yeah.
On a soul level, we're here for evolution and growth,
right.
and expansion, and to raise vibrationally, and to grow from this human earth school experience, right? So I want to ask you what that has looked like for you in terms of how you've processed change, how you've reacted to challenging circumstances, and also maybe offer some tools that have helped you navigate this space, because it's very challenging.
It can be very challenging, and each thing that comes up, especially when it's really intense and it feels very profound and paramount, like a huge turning of the corner,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes we need different things. Like, there's not one tool that is best for every situation. But really what it comes down to is like, how can we navigate this with the least amount of resistance? Because the least amount of resistance makes it easier. And now, of course, we'll all navigate these things at times with lots of resistance and frustration. And that's the thing. It's not perfect. That's the whole learning process as well, as being really stuck and having moments where you're like just so stuck, or you don't know which end is up. And those also are extremely powerful learning experiences as well. But really, it really comes down to, are we allowing ourselves to go through the process, or are we really strongly struggling internally with resistance? So when we say path of least resistance, it just means what thing, technique, tool, action, whatever it is going to help you move through it easier. And that's just going to be different for each moment, because, you know, being in your own state of flow, which is just our natural consciousness, is not really naturally stuck, but we get so stuck because we've learned to be stuck, because we've learned to, you know, not want to feel this type of thing and not want to deal with this emotion. But really, an emotion unencumbered can move through very quickly, like the breeze, like a very intense anger, or a very deep sadness that comes out from a guttural period of crying that feels like a purification. It's really a movement of energy. Our emotions are really there to help. If you look at them as an energy movement, it's a clearing. But each society has a different idea of what emotion is appropriate, what's not. So we've gotten so good at just kind of like shoving things, compartmentalizing things, and we've blocked the natural flow. You know, your flow state is not just being happy. Your flow state is being in a flow. Things will come up. Things can clear out. It's a movement. It's things in motion as opposed to being stuck. No one likes to feel being stuck. There's no one who wants to feel stuck. We want to feel.
People get into fear. They get into a fear mode. And so when you're in fear, you start to contract. And that's where you hold and bring in all of that negativity, fear, anger, depression, whatever it is, those lower vibrational energies. We tend to contract and hold on to them versus allowing that flow that you're talking about, which is opening, releasing, accepting. Right? Which is a totally different kind of energy. And also, people get in a place of self-judgment when they're in that space of fear and contraction, and it doesn't benefit you. So I think also we need to have more compassion towards ourselves when we're in that space of processing, releasing, experiencing things that feel very difficult and uncomfortable, you know.
Absolutely. And I think there's a big thing to just mention that, you know, your emotions as an energy, as a physical sensation in the body, is not the same thing as taking a problem and circling it through the mind. And that's where that fear loop comes, where it just becomes over and over and over and over, where it's this endless loop, but it's not actually progressing anywhere. Mm-hmm. And so it's like, even fear is a very intense energy in the body. And so the more you can drop out of this space and come into your body, into your heart space, the easier it is to move through. But easier said than done when your mind is completely gripping everything and you're just locked down in like an anxiety loop, you know. And everyone can sympathize with that, and it's not a judgment.
We've all been in that deep space. We're like, you know, what the hell? Why is this coming up? And there's also so many layers to clear.
So many.
And we're clearing. I feel like we're being asked to clear at such an accelerated rate because we are shifting energetically so quickly. Our planet is shifting vibrationally so quickly that we're being asked to almost shed and release at a much faster clip than had been expected in the past. In the past, it felt like we had all this time. Nobody was really pressed or even in a state of awareness. Now we have so many people that are in that state of awareness of what's happening, at least on some level, that we are going through an energetic shift on the planet, that we are shifting as individuals and as a collective, that that awareness maybe is also propelling us forward in this.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
Yeah, I have people who I would never think would come to me talking about the things that they're talking about, whether something related to holistic, alternative, spiritual, ascension, like energy thing. People I would never think would come to me.
People I would have
and
thought
say,
were
"Hey."
very 3D, right? Like in a
Yeah.
very 3D kind of lifestyle or mindset. And sometimes people are saying things to me, and I'm like, did I just hear the word ET out of your mouth or galactic or what?
Yeah.
Talking about other planets and you know,
Yes.
this is a broader awareness of the things that are kind of commonplace for you and I to discuss. Catch
Yeah.
me off guard, you know?
Yeah, and it's like some people's next step is like, alternative health. Like, wow, I tried acupuncture or I tried meditation. That was really interesting. Like that's their doorway, and then their next step and next step. And some people, their next step is like talking about aliens or, reading certain books or doing other metaphysical stuff. And it's so interesting to see the shifts in people. And I think the biggest piece is that people are realizing that there's just more than what they know. Like there's something more. They might not know what that is, but there's something more expanded, whether it be about their healing. Like I'm suffering and lots of things haven't worked and I need to look beyond that. I need to take the power inside myself and really see, well, what's right for me. I see that a lot because I work with people in the physical realm, meaning some people come to me because they want to deal with their physical pain. But they're always spiritual. They're always looking for the bigger picture. They're always wanting, they need to understand more because they've been, unfortunately, very, I'm blanking on the word that's supposed to come to my mouth, but they're very disheartened, that's what it is, by things not working in that realm. So for those people to see them shift and say, wow, what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling is important. What I focus on during the day is important. It shifts my perspective. The things that our societies, at least the Western, so I don't want to make this big blanket statement, but action is like the thing that is the worthiness, what we do and what we produce and the action we take. But all that falls short, and that's when people have the midlife crisis. It's like, I have everything, but I really don't have everything.
But I actually feel empty.
Exactly. You said it even better.
Because people are not, our culture doesn't promote you to actually go in. Our whole society, encourages us to be very outward seeking for answers, for material items, for guidance, But the key that Vanessa and I'm going to speak for you, Vanessa, because we're good friends. I feel like I know you well. I think the key that has unlocked the door for us has really been trusting ourselves.
Yeah.
And trusting our inner compass, our inner guidance, our inner knowing. And it's been challenging to get to this place of faith and belief in ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
But as we've done that, all of these old paradigms have started to shift. Things have come up for us to release. Things have come up for us to process and let go of, because we're not holding these things in this lifetime that have been accumulated in this lifetime. We have a long lineage of past lives and all of that programming that we're trying to clear as well. And man, that has not been easy.
Yeah, and I think it's important, like there's something that's really interesting to think about is if you have a fear about something that's never actually happened to you in this lifetime, like it's never happened, guaranteed you've experienced it just in another lifetime. So when people say these are irrational fears, yes, from one perspective, yes, right? From one kind of line of train of thought, but from another train of thought, it's okay to honor that that keeps coming up, if there's something that keeps coming up and something that keeps coming up and something that keeps coming up, you know.
Fear of water, fear of, maybe drowning,
Exactly.
whatever.
Yes. Is to know that if something keeps coming up, it's wanting you to see it a little bit more. Maybe sit with it, meditate on it, ask it questions, and don't just write it off. Like that is the physical world. Like you can't see it. It hasn't happened. It's not rational. But our, whole entire being is not, the way we experience things is not really linear like that. So when things come up, they come up from all different places and all different times, and they connect back to now. And the less, like you said, we trust ourselves and not judge the process, the easier things move through and flow. So we've been through, we've all been through hell and back, when especially I know you have, and I have, in terms of our healing journey. We've come up to a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's not easy.
And it's not easy, and I really honor people's processes. If you're in the middle of complete chaos, been there, like completely understand. That's those moments where you just kind of hold on to the boat as best you can. You just kind of have to ride that wave. And again, you do whatever feels the easiest, whatever you can do. Maybe it's talking to someone who can hold space for you. Maybe it's writing things down. Maybe it is meditating. Maybe it's physical activity,
yoga, or running, or taking your dog for a walk, whatever it is.
Yes.
If you get real silent in those dark spaces, if you can allow yourself some silence and shut that mind off, you'll hear a whisper of something, or guidance. Something is going to be gifted to you if you allow it.
Yeah.
If you allow it, if you silence your mind and stop freaking out for 5 minutes. And that's tough when you're in it deep, right?
Yeah.
Also, not only just silencing the mind to hear the inner compass or follow the inner compass, but also I think it's really important to be mindful of the perspective you're taking. Because when there's chaos and things are kind of blowing up, I found this to be so true in my life. There is a gift in there. There's a gift for me.
Definitely.
There's a huge opportunity for me to grow as a human being gifted in this shitstorm that I'm in. I always come out better. I always come out stronger. And in retrospect, when I look back, I was like, if this never happened, then I wouldn't be here. If this never happened, the person that was involved in that would not be where they need to be. It's all that chaos is a catalyst to move us. It's to move us energetically, spiritually, physically, emotionally forward.
It is. And a lot of people are clearing a lot around, human limitations of self-judgment and I'm not good enough and worthiness and all those mental constructs that just cause us lots and lots of deep suffering, like deep, profound suffering, judgment of self, which of course translates to judgment of others, lots of comparison of self and where you are in your life and all that stuff. And that is hard because if you can get completely consumed by it, meaning, the more we practice being able to not fully identify with what's coming up for us and be able to see like a broader perspective, the easier it is. But the more we're totally, completely consumed with it, we become identified. So it's like, yes, I'm not good enough. Yes, I'm not worthy of this. I'm
whatever the story is,
right.
I'm a victim of my trauma.
Right.
There's a trauma story. There's so many trauma stories out there, which I do not discount the trauma of the experience. There are many people who have experienced so much trauma in their lives, and it's been so crippling for them. But at some point, you have to move forward and create a life rather than be crippled and stuck by this trauma. and re-traumatizing yourself by going back to that story and that story and that experience. And yes, of course it was difficult. Of course it was traumatic. Of course it was painful. But we have to make a choice to choose life and a future over completely re-victimizing and re-traumatizing yourself by not releasing that story. We have to learn something from that, but we also owe it to ourselves to move forward. That's my opinion. Okay, that's my truth. That doesn't mean that's someone else's truth. That story might serve them in some way, and so they're reluctant to let go of that, and I understand that. But in my perspective is that we're here to actually fully live this life, which to me equates to expansion and growth, and actually living this life, experiencing joy, experiencing love, experiencing activity, experiencing delicious food, travel, whatever it is that lights you up on a soul level. I feel like that's why we're here. So
yes, and to clear everything out that gets in the way of us experiencing those.
Right. The clearing is very important. It's setting the ballast. That's back in life, right?
Right. And I think it's, bringing the story up, but not having the intention for it to really clear is it's dealing with it on only one level. And it's not allowing you to actually go into what you consider healing or clearing. It's vibrationally releasing it, which is deeper than just the concept of what happened. And that's why, retelling something like that without having that awareness, that's not always helpful. It has to be in the right context to heal, to go deeper. It has to trigger and feel. You have to feel it in a deeper level to release it.
What do you do?
Be willing to go there. You have to be willing to go there inside yourself. And talking can definitely do that, but there's a difference between just kind of like saying it over and over, like a broken record, and actually venting it out, venting it from your being. And it can be very scary because you're kind of feeling things that you might not have wanted to feel. That's why it's helpful to get help from somebody, to get help from somebody so you're not like doing it alone. Like you said, it's an interesting thing dealing with this whole being that we are. It's like we're so complex. We're so complex.
We're so much more than we think we are. That's for
sure. Yeah, and most of us spend a lot of time not focusing our mind as much as we are potentially able to on things that are expansive, on things that bring joy, and things that being in more of a state of gratitude or thankfulness or appreciation or whatever words, or enjoyment of the moment and relishing of the moment. And that's such a mindset shift that
an art form to be able to get to that place, because there's so many things that people are fearful of. They don't feel there's a worthiness piece that's huge. I'm not worthy of joy and abundance. I'm not worthy of living my fullest potential or meeting my fullest potential. I'm not worthy of having a future because of my past. But our life is like a motion picture. You have to keep going to the next reel and creating the next reel and creating the next reel. We're not in this life to constantly go backwards. We're not in this life, this human life, to constantly rewind. Right?
Right.
And keep going back. We need to actually go forward and expand. And we can't do that until we actually own what's happened and own the truth of what your feelings are around something, and then process it and release it. And like Vanessa's saying, you can go to a psychiatrist, a therapist. There's a lot of energy practitioners. Marconics helps to pull density and suffering from you. A lot of us are intuitives and can help you process things energetically. do what you need to do, but you don't need to suffer and you don't need to remain alone
Right.
in the space forever. It's not a life sentence. Only if you choose it to be one.
Yeah, when you're coming up to really intense things that feel really big and you're getting stuck and you're just kind of like, I want to be somewhere and I'm not there. And those are those moments to reach out to someone who can support you and truly hold space for your journey.
Vanessa is amazing at that. I'm just going to tell you all, if you need help, Vanessa is amazing at holding space and helping you without giving you the answers, because it's not our role as mentors and coaches and spiritual teachers to tell you what to do. Our role here is really to hold space for you and allow you to figure out and assist you in finding the best answers for yourself. It's like teaching someone to fish so they can feed themselves forever, or constantly feeding you a fish that we keep coming back. Our goal is to help you be empowered and give you the tools to find your answers, your own answers.
Right. And also, being able to read someone's energy, to really see someone on a deep level, and when I mean see them as the whole person, know where they're stuck, what paradigm they're stuck in. That's our realm. That's our realm. So it's like that skill set brought into the other things we do as a coach, as a mentor, as a massage therapist.
Our energy, Marconics energy.
And Marconics practitioner outside the Marconics session. Being able to really be able to see someone like that and basically guiding them to this is where you're stuck, because I can see, feel, and know what's going on with you. And now it's time for you to realize that is a biggest piece. That's such a big piece that a lot of people do this. A lot of people coming forward with, the ability to do that. And I think that's just very profound, because again, it can't just be a linear process. It has to be a deeper process.
There's always something deeper driving the issue that's presenting in your life.
Yes,
There's something deeper emotionally that's driving these relationship patterns, or these self-sabotage patterns, or these worthiness patterns. And it's not what you think it is. It's always deeper. It's energetic. It's emotional. It's manifesting in the physical. But there's always a deep, deep issue that's not being addressed, and that you are suppressing and burying and not allowing to be processed and released.
Right. And it's also, we're always doing that. So there's always something we're not fully seeing yet, because we never stop evolving. We're never static. So it's like we're completely whole and complete as we are. And at the same time, we're always expanding and evolving. So it's this interesting kind of paradox where it's like the human mind wants to say, someday I'll be in this complete space of perfection. Nope. We're always shifting, bro. We're always shifting.
But I think a huge piece of this is self-acceptance.
Yeah.
We've got to accept where we are, acknowledge it, and detach from where we think we need to be, who we think we need to be, what we think we need to be. Right. It's so important to accept yourself as you are in this now moment, and know that you have all the tools within you if you want to evolve and shift and change that. No human being comes into this lifetime without the tools required to move them forward into their greatness or into their life's or soul purpose. Everyone is given the exact tools they need.
Right. And, since we're always evolving, we're always whole, it's okay to accept joy, to accept moments of beauty, to accept moments of love, to accept, pauses, and just basking in something just gorgeous, because we're always going to see things in life that we want to change. So everyone has their causes and their missions and their things that they're meant to change here or shift or help. And at the same time, if we only focus on what we consider that's not working, that we need to shift, then we're getting too fixated on that. We need to kind of come back to a balanced place. I don't love the word balance, but I just using it more of a centered place so that we can enjoy the process and enjoy the moment too. Like we have to kind of flow with this and create harmony, because otherwise it becomes that sense of, I need to do this one more thing. I have to do this thing.
Unbalanced, right? In different ways. You can become unbalanced emotionally. I know people who are so stuck in the suffering. They just wear that like a badge of honor. Like, oh, it's so hard, and it's just too much. My life is just, there's no balance there. The pendulum has swung too far, and they kind of hold that. We need to allow ourselves, inversely. There has to be polarity, right? Yes, suffering, but then also you have to have the joy. You have to have, like you said, that harmony or balance in your life.
Like it's okay to be okay when other people are not okay. Like you don't have to fix the whole world to be happy. You can find that now. I promise you that. It doesn't matter where you are. You can find even fragments, moments, dots in your day to find not even joy, but maybe just presence or a moment of a crack of light, even for those that are suffering strongly.
Or gratitude, even gratitude.
Yeah, we're all we're navigating the up and down, and it's so important to realize. And I want to say something because I've read this a lot over the time. There's like in the spiritual community, there's this weird thing that I see with some people where it's like, if you're really into healing, it's like the mindset people or the people, positive thinkers, if you want to say, it's like the positive thinking and the healing, like as if they're separate. And those two things are completely needed. There's not one that's better than the other. You need the mindset. You need to learn how to focus your mind on things that are, if you're constantly worrying, you can shift that mindset. That's a mental pattern and habit that doesn't serve.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean you're spiritually bypassing the healing. You need both. And it's just a navigating of when each thing is appropriate, right? So when you're in the middle of your deepest healing and you're trying to be thankful and it's just not working, that might not be the moment. If you can't reach for that, that's not the moment. It might be full on acceptance and surrender to what's going on. And then on your way out, after you see some clarity, you can bring in that sense of thank you for this, thank you for the process. Thank you for the beautiful tree blowing in the breeze. Like you go into that and you allow yourself to work the muscle of a different way of focusing the thoughts. And those two things go together. So it's like, I see people saying, don't bypass. All these positive thinkers are bypassing. And then you have on the other side, the healer people are saying this. And it's just like, these things need to come together. Neither thing exists properly without the other. And that's what I had to say, because that conversation drives me a little nuts. That was my little rant there.
Okay. Thanks for sharing. But so what you're saying is there's a place for both.
Yes.
And both are critical components to releasing and healing.
Yes.
And I've also seen two extremes. I've seen people who really hold on to the suffering and don't allow themselves joy. And then there's the rainbows and unicorn people who go, there's no such thing as negativity. There's no such thing as, who are actually so focused on the rainbows that they have these blinders on to to reality, to difficult emotions, processing feelings, challenging situations, because it's too uncomfortable. So they're just going to stay over here in the rainbows. So there's two extremes, but I think, like you said, I think we both said, you have to have both sides of the pendulum, and you have to meet in the middle.
Right, because we're complex. We're not, we're not paper thin. We need a lot of different things at a lot of times, and it really comes down to what works in this present moment, not what we think works, not what we conceptualize should work, but what actually is going on. And we're all finding our way. At
Mhm.
times we're all stumbling through it. At times we're gracefully, gliding through it. At times we're flying through it. At times we're, walking through the mud, knee deep mud through it. And we're just always finding our way. And that's perfectly fine. And like we said over and over, the more we can be kind to ourselves through the process, be a gentle friend to ourselves through the process, the easier it is. But that's a huge thing to shift in itself. That's a huge thing, because all that self-judgment, all that, patterns of that mental patterns of self-judgment and comparison and not good enough and lack of worthiness is exactly what we're healing through. So it's a beautiful thing to want to expand and know more about ourselves. It's an amazing thing. It should be celebrated the way we celebrate birthdays and graduations and, new jobs and retirement and all the things we have, blow up balloons for and have cake for. We should be celebrating that. And if you don't have anyone else to do it with yourself, because it is truly an intense journey. And like you said, Wendy, we're being pushed forward quickly. There are so many light workers who are being pulled up. It's like, okay, hurry up.
Pulled online who kind of resisted, and it's like, no, we're out of time. It's time to step up. If you know that you're intuitive and you've been resisting your intuition and knowing, it's time to step into that. It's time to step into the full expression of who you are, why you're here. We need you. Humanity needs you.
Yes.
Your fear is depriving the people that you're here to serve of the entire purpose. You were born into this time, into this life with these gifts. Stop running from your gifts. Stop running from your truth. Stop trying to fit in a box that you don't believe or belong in. It's time to step into your power and become who you are meant to be.
Yeah. And, I feel it's really called to say this again, is that each of us have our own things that we're passionate about doing here. And it's okay to not feel passionate about the things that other people are doing, because you can't tackle everything going on. And as light workers, and especially empathic souls, if you are empathic, that can be something that's hard to do, because you agree with this and you want this to change and this over here and this and this and this and this, but that might not be your battle to fight. I've said that to myself many times from the higher perspective, that that's not your battle to fight. That's not your battle to fight. I have the things that I'm meant to be sharing with the world and saying and doing. And if I over focus on everything else, that's not that I can't contribute or donate and all that stuff, not that I can't sign things, and not saying not to be involved at all. I'm just saying, if you're over focused on what other people doing, even if it's just their outpourings, if you're not creating as much as you're being called to, if you're over focusing on what other people are going to think of you, if you're over focusing, on, oh, this person's doing something great, I should be doing that, I'm not doing that, they're doing it better than me, blah, 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 all that stuff. Like Wendy just said, you are denying what you came here to do and your full expression of your own energy, your own aligned creative expression. And I don't mean just artists. I'm saying as creators of our lives, whatever that is, in whatever way that is, you're denying that. In a world where we can have access to everything, which is beautiful, we have social media, we have all this stuff, we have to learn how to take these things and use it for the right way that works for us. And that is just so important. Just because you're not focusing on this cause that might affect you, or you're not overly contributing to that, or you're not overly reading about it, it's okay. You have your thing you need to do. There are other people who are taking care of those other things.
Yeah, we need to stay in our own lane. And also, we need to do things that align with our truth.
Yes.
Because so many people are trying to fix you, tell you what they think you need to be doing, what you need to be believing. And it's really up to each one of us to find our own inner compass and guidance and follow that. And know that it's okay. It's okay not to be running with the herd. If you're not running with the herd, if you're running the other way, you're right on point. You should be finding out who you are and what you're here to be and go with that.
And that takes some
Courage.
It takes some, cocooning. It takes some inner space. It takes some going within. It takes some time to be by yourself, with yourself in pockets of time, to hear your own voice, especially if you're such a helper in this world. You have to be able to put all the helping aside for a minute and go within. Mm-hmm. Know what you're meant to be doing and what's your next step, and am I feeling aligned in my decisions today and what I'm feeling, and am I honoring myself? And it's always that lesson. I find that lesson over and over again in so many different ways.
A huge lesson for me was I was such a giver. I was so conditioned to please and give and give and give and give, whether I wanted to or not. It was always, yes, I'll help you. Yes, I'll do this. Yes. Until there was nothing left to give. I want to give you all who are watching this interview permission to give back to yourself. You have got to give back to yourself. You have to do things for yourself. You have to be on your own team. You have to love yourself. You have to focus on refilling that bank of energy that you've depleted by giving everything away.
Yes.
Almost to the point of giving your soul away. It's very critical at this time to start to bring yourself back. Put yourself, collect all those particles of yourself that you've given out to the world and bring them all back and become whole and complete. Very important to do that right now.
Yeah. I just wrote a blog about that yesterday. Basically. And it's what comes up for a lot of people is, what will people think? What will my spouse think? What will my partner think? I have kids, how am I supposed to take care of these people? Whatever it is, it's like, oh my gosh, all that stuff. And that's the journey. That's the work, right? Like looking at that and saying, well, but I'm not honoring myself. So let's come back here. Right? Let's come back.
It's a practice, especially if you've been in the habit for 30, 40 years of just giving. We're talking about that balance and harmony. Mm-hmm. Now it's time to receive.
Yes.
There has to be an equilibrium. You have to allow yourself to receive the gifts that the universe has for you. And you have to give to yourself. You have to be okay with giving to yourself and knowing you're worthy of it. Right. Right. So I just want to summarize what we've been talking about throughout this interview is how important it is to shed and release the things that are no longer serving you. Mm-hmm. It's a process and it's uncomfortable. But it's important to move forward in your life and not keep going back and hitting rewind. In order to go forward, you're going to have to process a lot of this emotional stuff. And there's a lot of people available, so many different techniques and healers and therapists and psychiatrists and whatever it is you feel called to do to help you. There's so many people out there to help you. And I highly recommend Vanessa Uybarreta, because she's fantastic in helping me with my shit.
Thank you.
as a friend and mentor. Also, it's important to stay in your lane and not apologize for who you are and step into your gifts, because your gifts were given for a reason, because you're here for a very particular and specific reason, and you're here to shine a light for others and be your highest and best self and be the fullest expression of love and allow yourself to find joy. Right, Vanessa?
Yes. And go with what that inspired action is, that what you're called to from down here, not from here, but from here. And sometimes you don't know what the big picture looks like, but you might just be called to buy that book or go to that place or whatever it is. And it's the breadcrumb trail. It's like, and then
all of those breadcrumbs.
The next endless breadcrumbs. And it's an enjoyable journey if we allow it to be more of sometimes. Not
Yeah.
saying always, but
right, to what the universe is leading you towards. Have
right.
compassion towards yourself. Love yourself.
Yes.
You're all worthy of love. You are loved. You're never alone. You have a huge team behind you. Even though you feel alone, you have a spiritual team. You have guides. You have people who love you that you're not even aware of you. So you are loved. We love you. There's an
Right.
energy and vibration of love in the world, and you are part of it. So it's important to remember.
And find what works for you. Listen to what you feel called, what works for you right now. There's a million paths you can go, and what your path is exactly unique to you. And you go down that path. You walk that
Deviate, right? Stay aligned with your truth.
Yeah.
Is what we're saying. So
Yes.
Vanessa, I've just so enjoyed our conversation today. Do you have anything else you want to say to feel complete? Is there anything in particular that has been really helpful to you navigating this journey?
I think we've said everything that I've wanted to say, but like we said, the less we can not judge the process, the more we can walk that path of least resistance and be more in a flow with what's happening. Mm-hmm. It's not about being in a state of pure joy all the time, because that's not realistic 100% of the time. It can be a lot of the time, but just to allow things to flow. So it's not a conditional love. It's an unconditional love for your process. That's really what that practice is. It's the unconditional love of the process of your human existence.
Beautiful. How can people find you, Vanessa? What is your web address? And I'll put it down below.
VanessaUybarreta.com. You can find me there. I work with people all over the world, or also locally with myofascial release body work, which is profound healing work, with the intuitive mentoring, and with Marconic sessions, which is such powerful energy work for ascension. And also I teach classes and all sorts of things. I'm a dancer and a yoga and movement teacher, so I help people with the body, the mind, the emotions, and the energy, and their spiritual journey.
Mind, body, and soul.
Mind, body, and soul. So yeah, check me out. I'm on Facebook and Instagram as well.
Awesome. Well,
thank you for having me.
I love you so much.
I love you too.
Thank you
for having me on.
Thank you for tuning in. I hope you got a couple nuggets of wisdom on how to navigate these really challenging times. Hang in there. You have everything you need, and I have full confidence that you guys are going to make it. So until next time, aloha. Please subscribe, like, and share if you enjoyed our video, and we'll talk to you later. Thank you. Bye.